Right, there we go. So, good morning, everyone, once again. Thank you for joining us on this breakfast session. I think this is probably, certainly as far as the sections that we've done for housing and for local government, is fundamentally probably about the seventh or eighth one. So exciting times. And if you've been on some of these before, they're essentially an hour long, very much a case of we like to showcase and bring forward best practice, sharing stories of technology and business, and really talking about to the sector and sharing experiences of how we improve and move forward. I'm delighted to say this morning we're joined by our partners, a strategic partner, Orlo, who will talk a little bit more about who they are, what they do, and why their solution is fantastic for allowing us to deliver better customer experiences in housing and in local gov and other sectors. But we'll be talking a little bit about that in a short while. So thank you again. Cameras are optional. We've got an hour to go. If you've got any questions as we go through, raise your hand. I want to, obviously, because I know everyone has got busy days, keep to the hour, and we'll look to finish at 9:30, and we'll try and keep 5 minutes at the end for question Q&A. But if there is anything burning on the tip of your tongue, please do raise your hand via Teams and let us know. Okay, so starting this morning with a little bit of a story around the theme that we're going to be talking about. So I don't know if any of you read the news. I think it was probably, certainly 6 months ago. But one of the key stories that struck out for me in and amongst everything that wasn't COVID-19 related over the last 12 months was effectively how a social platform like Reddit had been used to effectively disrupt, for all intents and purposes, Wall Street. And I think even though this is a completely unrelated story to housing and local gov, what struck me about this story in particular was actually the critical impact that social media and different communication channels across across the network of how many we've got at the moment, how these tools can be used to effectively disrupt industries, create noise, and actually be used as vehicles to create either problems or opportunities for communities. And I think as a metaphor for actually what we're about to talk today, the message here is very much about, in this session, how we can actually, give customers within housing and local gov the channel of choice. These social media sites and fundamentally the digital platforms that either some of you are going through the transition of working with or are thinking about working with, the likelihood of them going away with, Generation Z coming through is very unlikely. And I think what certainly Wall Street and others would do well to do is think about not just social, but actually a multi-channel or omni-channel engagement strategy as to, it's inevitable customers and individuals, because of the experiences that companies and large blue chip companies like Amazon create for us, that they expect speedy, fast responses and expect the ability to be able to communicate and disrupt or innovate within the different types of social media platforms and digital platforms that they choose. And I'm sure in the next 10 years there'll be plenty more that expire over time and plenty more that come through. So fundamentally, what we want to talk about today and give you give you both a solution demonstration of the Orlo solution, as well as some of the Dynamics 365 backend accelerators. It's about fundamentally how do we empower and give customers the channels of choice to be able to elevate their experience by letting them interact in the way that they want to, and secondly, how do we empower our colleagues to deliver greater services? So it's all very well allowing a strategy where multiple channels, or what we call an omni-channel experience, is available. But the more channels you add, the more greater complexity. And actually what you as a housing association or local authority want to do is consolidate and have a single source of the truth of all that service data in one place, so that you can do your best with that information to be able to go back and create those great experiences. So we'll be talking about how we do those two things as part of today. So some of you on the call here are either Crimson customers or existing people that have been on this breakfast session before. So welcome again, and welcome those, and thank you for coming. Some of you may not know too much about Crimson. We're very fortunate to be a Microsoft Gold partner and be working successfully with a number of housing associations, local authorities, as well as industries like private home building and, actually, believe it or not, higher education. And really what we do is quite simple. It's helping organizations like yourself realize the opportunity with the Microsoft technology. So we deliver Dynamics 365, SharePoint, Office 365, and the Microsoft cloud-based solutions to help drive opportunity and value within your organizations. And a quick intro, I think, from Rich and Laura for who Olo are and who they are.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks to the Crimson team. Usually this would be Laura, who's our sector specialist, doing this, but unfortunately she's got mad hay fever and she's finding it hard to talk this morning, so I'm going to take over. So Olo are a social media management platform. We're a Microsoft ISV partner and been working with Microsoft the last 3 years. We're now a premium partner. We've been working with Crimson for over the last 6 months as well, and we've built a really strong relationship there. We've been working in the housing association market for about 8 years now. We've got 25 housing associations ranging from all shapes and sizes. We work with over 300 customers, and that's 50% public sector. So we've got circa 80 councils, a quarter of all police, and a large section of central government using us as well. And we've got a really strong retention rate. And really what that means is that most people who come and use the platform actually stay with us because it offers such great value for what we do.
Fantastic.
So this is kind of my intro into what we do, really. So Olo ourselves work with our customers to actually take you on a journey. So when we talk about broadcasting, it's about putting out information. And so you might be actually using social to tell people about maintenance. You might be using it to recruit new tenants, but actually you're not actually engaging with them. So you're kind of just going through the motions. And a lot of people do that, and a lot of people do it very successfully. So it's not a slight on how that works. But really, it's kind of take that to the next stage of actually engaging with them. So how do I create engagement? What kind of content creates engagement and creates a backwards and forth conversation? And once you've done that, you actually have the ability to resolve problems and actually stop conflict at the start. So a lot of people want to use social, want to create great content to drive new tenants, but also to kind of engage with the community. And once you start engaging with the community, you'll start getting complaints. And how do you manage those complaints before you have to put it through and it becomes more costly? Social is a really great way of doing that because it allows you to engage with them. And what we've seen is that more and more you start seeing a stronger channel shift. So people stop calling you, they start using digital channels, and actually it's a cheaper channel to use. We have the ability to do multi-message management. So you don't have to kind of do a one-to-one, you can do a one-to-many. The response times are reduced. So once again, the response time, when you think about it, it is a two-way factor. One, I'm saving money because I'm responding quicker, but also I'm improving my customers' experience. So they're contacting us and responding quicker, and actually they feel like we're more engaged with them. And the last part is actually most people are likely to use a channel again. That could be live chat or it could be social media, but it's a simpler channel, so you don't need to push people to digital channels to see that channel shift. People will organically go there. So if you give them the ability to contact you and engage with you, they will. The next slide on this, if Jordan, if you could click over, please. Might be taking a couple of seconds to catch up on Teams.
I think so. So I've got the new next slide in front of me.
Okay, well, hopefully, if everybody else has. Laura, can you see the next slide?
No, it's still on the last slide.
Might be worth resharing, Jordan. Oh, there we go. It's caught up itself now. The wonders of new technology. So the whole part of that is these 3 tips help you build into that way of building a community confidence. So first of all, be transparent, and being transparent isn't necessarily kind of airing your dirty laundry. It's actually engage with them and saying, well, yes, you're right there. That's happened. We haven't done a great job there. But it's sometimes actually it's fake news. You've done the wrong. You're talking about the wrong thing, and social media is great for actually escalating things that aren't a problem. One of the forces that we worked with was actually talking about a recent case whereby it was a kidnapping, and actually with the kidnapping, well, it wasn't a kidnapping. It was a lady went on Facebook said my niece got in the car with two guys, and actually that got escalated to the police force. I won't name who they weren't doing their job, and they didn't engage with them. And what happened was actually it reduced their confidence in their services really quickly. And if they actually engaged with it and were transparent about that, it would have allowed them to say, actually, we're on the case, we've reviewed the problem, it's not an issue. And that's really what we've got to do at all levels, is kind of be transparent and say, yeah, we're doing the right things, or actually we're going to do better. The last part of that really follows on is that engagement piece. How to engage my audience? So that can be about creating great content and understanding it. So we do social listening to actually listen to what people are saying about us and what people are saying about our industry and what people are saying about housing in general. And then we engage with that and we create great content. And then when people actually say negative comments, positive comments, we engage with them back with that as well. And the last part is having that integrated approach. So this is a bit of a twofold thing. One is having a coordination across departments. So social shouldn't just sit in the communications team. It does a lot of the time, and that is changing over the last couple of years. But if you see something like Bromford Housing, they use this in the communications team. They use this in the customer service team. They use it across the business to be able to actually engage with their customer better. Because once they know, once the customer knows they can talk to them on the medium that they want to talk to them on, they will do. And you have to be able to utilize technology to be able to speak between those two teams. So if you're siloed off and you're doing one thing and then you're kind of copying and pasting and sending on an email, one, there's a time factor in that and it's costing you time. Two, it's not a great customer experience for the actual end user. And three, you're not giving people the tools to actually engage with the user themselves. We were doing some work with a housing association. We found what they were doing in the copying and pasting, sending an email, sending it to the customer service team, was costing them about a week a year. And actually just admin, and being able to take that away and give people the ability to create cases from social is a huge factor here. And that could lead on to that second part of it, which is utilizing technology like Microsoft Dynamics and Crimson's accelerators to be able to connect into social media and then create cases in the back of it and actually close that loop. Because if you're not doing that, what happens is things fall through the gaps. And actually, that's one of the reasons why we started working with Microsoft, is to make sure that social wasn't siloed off and people were getting the voice within the rest of the business as well. And that's really where the Microsoft stuff sings, is that they give you a core business platform and we give you that digital conversation piece that allows you to engage with the public in the right way. Jordan, if you could jump on the next slide, please. I think this might be me still. Yeah. So this is our platform in a lot of text-heavy way. Essentially, we're broken down into three things: customer care, communications, and analytics. The customer care module is a unified inbox of all your social media. It pulls in Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, SMS, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and puts it all in one place. And that's also where we do our first integration into Dynamics. So we can create leads, contacts, cases, accounts from all over, but we can also take that inbox and then put that in Dynamics as well. The second part is communications. So can we curate and create content? Can we make sure that it's really simple to manage what's going out? And how do we engage on that communication once it comes back in? And the last part is analytics. Everything we do is backed by analytics. So that might be understanding the ROI from social, tracking people from social media to your website, and then understanding what happens there, managing campaigns, managing marketing analytics, but also managing stuff like the team analytics as well. So we can start understanding what's our SLAs, actually what's our resolution time, what's the average conversation time, how long does it take us to pick up a conversation once we're there, how many conversations do we have about a certain type, how many complaints do we have, and all of that really amalgamates into actually giving you actual insight. And once you have that actual insight, it kind of goes back into the machine and make sure you're performing better next time as well. And this is really how it all fits in with that Microsoft stack. So in community engagement, it's how we create cases, it's how we connect the dots all together. In communications, can we push messages out, and can we do stuff like validation with teams as well? So can we give you social media in areas that you use on a day-to-day basis? And the last part is taking that social media data and adding it to stuff like Power BI and customer insights. Because what that allows you then to do is to create referential databases. So you might be able to say, right, show me my telephony stats versus my social stats, and let's see if I'm seeing that channel shift. Let's see what's actually it's gaining us. And that's where people like Crimson can really help, because they take all that data and give you that great insight on the back of it.
Thanks, Rich. So just a quick word from me before we go into the demonstration. So hopefully that gives you some context about what the Orlo solution does and why social shift and some of these digital platforms are so important. I think there's been some great questions, which I'll ask Rich very quickly before we move into demonstration. But just a very quick word to our approach with sort of Dynamics 365 in the housing and local gov space. So essentially, we as Crimson, Dynamics 365 is the core, CRM solution or customer engagement platform. CRM, I think, will be a word of the past in the next couple of years to come, but very much using what is Microsoft's leading customer engagement capability and platform, and creating what we've created, which is our, for all intents and purposes, a housing accelerator. So it's an unmanaged solution that we're able to drop in and quickly add value to housing associations and work with that see it as a framework, a set of templates and pro formas to help bring the solution to life for housing associations. And what I'll show you is some of those examples of some of the things that we've done with our accelerator, and actually then when Rich goes in to show you how we can take some of that social sentiment and social engagement from some of our customers and tenants, how then do we empower our colleagues to actually then manage those and actually, more importantly, serve better? So, Rich, there was just a couple of questions, I think, before we get into the demonstration from you. We had one from Ian, which was, are we not limited by the tenant base not having access to enough digital to make a massive channel shift strategy, although most do have smartphones?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's more about demographic than it is about anything else. So, you actually, if you're talking to an older demographic, they will be less likely to use social. So, if you're working in that world, then it may not be suitable for you. However, most people of say sort of like probably like 13 to like 50 now are on social to some varying degree. And actually, it's more the opposite effect that people are a bit worried about is that bell curve. So what happens is when you open up social as a channel, is that you see an immediate rise in people interacting with you, because actually suddenly you're giving that channel a choice. And it's about weathering that part of the storm, and whilst you're working out how those processes work together to make sure that it works right for you, and actually you're seeing that channel shift saving. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue with people not using it. I think if you give people the option to use it, more often than not people do use it. It's actually that bit in between where you're getting phone calls and you're still getting additional social, and how that all works together, because you do see an increase in contact. There is no two ways about it, but actually the more you give them the opportunity to engage in digital, the more likely they will do. That's what we've seen time and time again. But I think it is very much a demographic based thing.
I think, from our side as well, just to build on that point, there becomes a massive point, that here are the tools and some of the effectively the technology that's available is what we're showcasing today. But it plays on the point of, what's really important here is that you do two things. If you don't already, which I'm sure all of you do, have a customer panel and listen to that customer panel to understand. I see a lot of housing associations investing in technologies like portals, but it's really important to sort of understand and center around, what is it that your community and your set of customers are actually looking from you to improve and elevate your service. And in addition to that, sometimes they don't know what they don't know, because, asking someone directly, would you want to interact with us with a social? Sometimes it can be a little bit of a direct question which they haven't really thought about, and therefore the response from them directly, immediately might be a not sure. I think for me, what you got to kind of understand as well is how do they consume as part of that customer panel services outside of you as a housing association or local authority? What do they do in their, modern day lives? What experiences do they have? Do they use, websites like Amazon and other technologies? Because I think what they find is actually, regardless of whether they thought about needing it with you guys, if they're behaving and operating in that way outside of you, chances are, and that goes for all demographics, by the way, you know, God love her, even my gran is what I've described as an Amazon maniac these days, and has tried to get me to help her to subscribe to Prime. So I think it's really important that we do have that customer panel listening to them and understanding what platforms, technologies, and methods are the right ways to engage with them. But at the same time, look at what they are doing outside of with you to be able to understand how effective these tools can be. Kira, you've got a question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to what you said. I think we often think with digital that this is it's an all or nothing. And I think what you've said there, George, is absolutely, but just the question around our tenant space, it's got to be about tenant choice. And we've seen that coming from the white paper around communication choice. It's not about stopping the phone or stopping face to face, because as housing, that is where our quality work is delivered. We are still going to be a people organisation. However, it is around those high level transactions and the things that people want to do when they choose to do that digital can really help. So I don't think it's a totally getting rid of the phones, but it's about using the right methods of communication for the right tenants. And it is around choice. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I completely agree on that, Kira. It's given the breadth and stuff like Jordan mentioned portals, and to me, it's about having a pathway to get people to self-serve and actually giving them the opportunity to do that. But to do that, you have to be able to still utilize telephony, email, social, and actually go. Here's the ability to self-serve, and once you get them to do that and get them to engage with it, you'll start seeing that it is a great way of doing it. But they have to have a pathway to do that, and to do that, you have to have all these channels playing together.
Thanks, Rich. So just very one quick one, I think from Ian, just before we move into the demo. So thanks for the response. Another difficult one linked to the previous. Do you have data regarding the demographic that can have most benefit from the Orlo solution?
I don't know. We will have case studies on that. We did one with the public sector recently. Laura, would you be able to pull out the link for that one and put it into the chat for us? And that will give you an idea. But on that as well, one of the things that we do a lot of is social listening. So actually picking out keywords that are specific to your organization, because actually demographics is a key part of it, but actually listening to what people are saying about your organization on social is more important, because then you can understand, will they engage with you? And that's the first layer of what we do.
Perfect. Thanks, Rich. So yeah, when you're ready, over to you for a bit of a look.
Perfect.
So just worth noting that me and Rich, having done a few of these now and sort of showcasing a bit of Orlo and how Dynamics and the whole solution hangs together, we want to sort of set the scene and tell the story of Ted Nugent, who is our fictional customer and tenant. So don't be alarmed, Ted isn't someone that we know personally, but we just want to talk to you for the purposes today a bit about Ted's story and how his journey potentially might work and flow through with social.
Last time I think it went quite well. I said it was like Ant and Dec, and Jordan thought it was the Chuckle Brothers. So we'll see how it goes today. Can everybody see my screen at the moment? Yeah, good.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Rich.
So this is the Orlo platform, and as you can see here, we've got a navigation bar up here. Marketing, which is obviously the marketing area, the inbox, which is the customer care area, monitoring, where we do social listening, and we also do media monitoring. So we cover 2 million different data points, so we can start looking at blogs, news sites, anything behind the paywall, analytics, and then workflows. And workflows is a great way to break down your accounts. So if you're working across loads of different accounts, it's a really simple way of doing that. So I'm just going to start off in our content calendar. As you can see here, we've got things that have been published, and I can click on here and see things where it's been engaged on, can see if anybody's left any notes on here. I can actually leave notes here as well. Just message Laura. But it's a really simple way of kind of creating that engagement internally, but seeing what's happening as well. And anywhere through the platform, you'll be able to see statistics on what's happening on those posts. You can also see I've got things scheduled out here as well. And I can move that around and just go, actually, pretty content heavy on that day. So I'm going to move it to here. I'm going to create a post now about planned maintenance, and I'm going to do that via the compose tool, but that's a couple of places here. So I can create it as part of a campaign and just do it here. I can do a bulk upload. So you might decide, actually, we built a massive campaign and I just want to add that into Orlo, but I'm going to use our UI here. I'm going to select a couple of different accounts. I do Facebook and Twitter, but I can do it across a few different accounts if I wanted to. And I'm going to go straight into our content library. So our content library is unlimited and it's a simple folder system. And you're lucky I'm not doing sooty and sweep because that's usually the standard one, but I'm going to use planned maintenance here. So as I upload that, what you'll see is that it will add the image to the text, but also it will offer me some guidance around that as well. So first of all, it will say, please only use for planned maintenance. So we're making sure that anybody who's not a regular user or somebody new to the team knows what that image is for. And we're going to add some suggested text into here as well. So this is about lockdown, restrictions being easing, and actually us going out and doing some more planned maintenance. First of all, you can see here I've got a link in there, and that link becomes an Orlo link. So if I jump in and see what that post looks like in real life, you can see it's got that link there. And that actually allows us to do link tracking and UTM tracking. So that takes us from social media to the website and says, all right, who's actually tracking that through to see what's happening and when it's happening, and are they engaging with it as well? So if they are customers, what you'll see is that it'll give you that information through and say, oh, Rich Davis has gone from social and seen that information. I can also do stuff like edit the image here as well. So I might want to crop it for a certain size or add a filter on it. Let's make him vintage. I'm not sure how that works with faceless men, but we'll give it a go. And I can do stuff like add alt text. And if it's a video, I can add subtitles. And the importance of that is that everything you guys do has to be accessible. So making sure that it's accessible to anybody who's hearing impaired or visually impaired is really important. And then I can either put that for content approval. And once I put that for content approval, somebody else has to approve my work. We do that a lot where people are trying to decentralize social media. So we have a mobile app, and what that allows you to do is to give social media to people within the organization who wouldn't necessarily be the people who regularly create communications. But for example, if you've got somebody going out and doing planned maintenance, you might say, hey, I'm an XYZ treat today. Any questions, let me know. And that allows you to go, actually, I'm going to put that through to the comms team, make sure it's on brand, make sure it's on point, and make sure it's going out in the right way. All of that is all can be set through the permissions as well. Give people certain access to certain things and the ability to post out whenever they want to, or content approval. Scheduling it, I can schedule it on any day I want, apart from the days that have been passed. And I can see here, white means a day that it's actually got no content on, and green means there's already content going out on that day for that specific account. I'll select Saturday and I'll post that out. You can see here it's going to tell me when that's going to when I'm going to get the best engagement based on the last month, and I get the best engagement on Friday at 10 a.m. So I'm actually going to do 10 a.m. again, and I'll do it for 10:05 to make it feel not so scheduled. I'll add that through. So that's now been added to the schedule. What that's also done is, because I need to go to content approval, it's actually asked us to validate that post here as well. So I can click on that and it'll ask me to go through and validate that post. The importance of that is that actually you might have managers who don't necessarily want to live and breathe in Orlo like the social people will do, but they want to be able to validate posts. And actually what we've done here as well is add that into Orlo for stuff like crisis management. So when you work on a day-to-day basis and something's happened, for example, it might be a bombing attack, and you're actually, how do we manage this through? We want to create up some social listening streams, and then we want to put it in a place where people can see it and actually engage with it as well. So this one is just standard looking at COVID, looking at a hashtag that we've got ourselves. And then I can also go to like the one here and then look at the profile searches as well. So I could jump in and go, I'm getting a lot of engagement from Rich Davis on Twitter. So let's do Ted Nugent. Let's have a look and understand what Ted Nugent's saying about us. And I can find his account on here. and engage and just get a bit more understanding about what's happening with him. So if I jump on to the actual Ted Nugent's account, I can see who's following him, I can see information about him that my colleagues might have left, and I can see the previous interactions and statistics around his actual account. So how do I actually engage with this person when it comes through? But in this instance, we're going to say this has already been sent out, and we've had Ted actually engage with us. So if you're a wrestling fan, you might know that's Ric Flair, but in this instance, it's Ted Nugent. So first of all, we've had a post that's gone out, and then he's engaged with us on that post. So he said, like, great, but does that mean you're going to fix my leak? And you can see here we're doing some sentiment tracking, and we've also can tag that message as well. So first of all, I want to be able to go into here and say, you know what, I'm going to add a tag. And what that allows us to is when we start doing our analytics is how many complaints have we had? And then I could also do another complaint to say, actually, it's around a leak, and add that in there as well. We can see that I've got a couple of different tags attached to these posts. And that's gone through. We've actually responded to them. We've responded to them using what we call a snippet. So this is where we start seeing a lot more of that channel shift as well. So that we know we're getting frequently asked questions, and it's a standard thing we get asked on. So we're going to go, but in this instance, it's a standard complaint one. So I'm going to use my one Microsoft, which is, thanks for the message. Really sorry to hit you had a bad experience. Let's take it. Let's follow this link to take it through. And what we do is what we call a DM reply link. And the DM reply link essentially takes us from a public message to a private message. And the importance of that is that if you're asking certain questions, link the accounts, or they've got an actual negative attitude towards your brand, you want to take that off automatically. If it's something you can engage on and be transparent about, because people are saying something that's not right, then you can definitely go and do that publicly. But if it's a one where you can actually, we should have managed it better, taking it to a private message is a better way of doing that. You can see on here what's happened there is actually message in, send that link, I click on that link, and it takes me directly through here. And you can see here that Ted's actually then responded and said, great, what do you need to sort this out for us? And then that's gone into a private message here. So I can start responding to that message and working through. I'm conscious of time, so I'm not going to do a backwards and forwards and talk to myself. I'm going to walk on to that next part here. So if I open up the profile, I can see here, first of all, a bit of information about Ted himself. There's negative comments, and actually has, over time, you'll see that there might be positive comments, there might be, well, we'll just get that view of what that is. And then we can also view his profile like I've just shown. And then I can open up in Dynamics as well. So first of all, I can see I've already linked Ted before, so I've had a conversation with Ted in the past. He's got a case open about his bathroom leak, so I can jump into that case and go, what's that information? And that will allow me to jump in and take that directly to Dynamics. And that means that we don't have to store any data on all this. So all that kind of GDPR issues that you might be thinking at the moment isn't an issue. And then I can go back into the profile itself and actually push that message through. So in this instance, let's say we've had a conversation and I'm going, right, I need to go and identify this to the right people, and I'm going to push that over to Dynamics. I can either create a new case or update an existing case, but I'm going to add it to this case because that's what it's about. Once that's done, that will go into Dynamics and it will go as a social activity. So we're not doing anything fancy. That's a standard entity in Dynamics and allow you to push all that information across. I'm just going to show you how to add in. So you might have something like a lead that comes through, and as it comes through, you can either link to a Dynamics profile or create a new sales lead. If I don't have the profile of Ted Nugent already in the system, I can also create it here as well, but I know it's Ted, so I'm going to confirm and link that here. You might also notice that we've got a side panel here, and that side panel takes all of Orlo and slides it into here, and it's a stripped back version of Orlo, but essentially what it allows me to do is go in and do maybe publishing if I wanted to do a quick publish. I may see that it's going on in the inbox. So we see this much more as a managerial view of going, well, what's happening? How are we engaging with Samir? Or what's actually going out on our socials? So if you're a customer service manager, and if you say, well, what's happening on our social walls? What's happening? What are we sending out here? And what's our communication teams creating? This allows me to see that really simply and go, okay, this is what's gone out. I can pretty much guess I'm going to start getting some engagement soon. The next part of that is something that we work with Crimson on, is actually our omni-channel as well. So Crimson obviously managed through live chat through omni-channel. We add the social element to this, and the reason we do it is actually because we can start pulling in private messages, public messages, indirect messages from all those social media forums. and we take all that power of the inbox and put it into here as well. So you can see here, I can email it out if I wanted to. Actually, if I jump onto Rich Davis here, I think this is the right one. I can show you that actually I can translate that message if I wanted to. And then if I wanted to post out to Richard, I could do that here as well. And I'll do the same with that here, and I can translate that back as well. So we're just simplifying everything down to do that. And I'm just going to jump in and finish off on the analytics side here. So the two analytics I want to show you is firstly the marketing analytics. And this will allow us to start seeing those classic clicks, reach, and impressions. And let's see, understanding what the brand sentiment is, what our reach is, what our locations are, people are connecting with us on, and actually what the top times to post, what the top clicks reach, and start seeing what posts are actually gaining traction. The second part of this is actually that engagement part, and I think this is a bit where it gives you a bit more granularity. So obviously you can get the marketing stuff, it's a bit like that's more for show, and actually, yeah, we are getting engagement we want, but this is actually showing how people engage with us. So I can start going, you know what, show me like complaint, show me everything through my complaints, or exclude everything through COVID, because COVID is a completely separate matter, and that gives just let your accounts and push that through here. So first of all, what I want to be able to do is see some top level information. And the top level information is stuff like average response time, conversation lengths, our handling time, our resolution time. What's actually that sentiment of people messaging us? When are we getting activity? When are we getting engagement time? So when are people more likely to engage with us? Is it Monday morning or is it Friday afternoon? So if it's Friday afternoon, do we need people actually managing it? And if you don't work on the weekends, actually won't skew those stats. Importantly, I can see what's moving from negative to positive. So we're doing that sentiment tracking throughout that life of the conversation. And once we resolve it, we can see that, are we moving things up to there? Hopefully it's not going from neutral to negative like there. SLAs, are we hitting them? And actually who's engaging with us? And this is really important because one, you'll have people who are consistently engaging with you. And then two, you might have people who are positively engaging with you and are advocates. And if they've got a high enough influence score, you might go, actually, I need to work with David a bit more because he's got a high influence score, engages with a lot, it's always positive, he's always trying to help. How do we utilize that to our benefits? And then obviously those top tags, response times by accounts, and then our first response times and stuff like our team performance and user performances. And we can also do stuff like social listening around that to understand what people are saying about us and not to us. But in this instance, we're going to show from this point how we've managed TED from a conversation in social to managing that in Jordan's world in Crimson. So I'm going to pass back over to Jordan.
Thanks, Rich, and hopefully all of you can now sort of see my screen.
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Thanks. So yeah, I think it's really important. You know, again, what your capabilities you've seen there is twofold. The ability to proactively engage, interact, and promote your housing or local authority brand, and the various different sort of community events and things that are going on. All of us in, I think, every housing sort of corporate plan that I've read includes sections about how do we reach our customers and engage with them more effectively and be more, I suppose, visible and action things that they want. I think that, like I showed, gives you that tool to be able to engage more effectively. And on the flip side of that, how do we then manage, as well as sort of promoting our association through social channels and multiple social channels you'll see in there that Orlo can integrate with, not just Twitter. Fundamentally, then, how do we also take potentially complaints and compliments? How do they come through, and how do we manage those, react to those, and take things like online visible tweets, posts, and bring those back into private conversations so that we're managing and calming down anything that's physical, that's out there, that's online. So now this is just a very quick second section as per the second message, as to Rich showed the integration between Dynamics 365 and Orlo, which I think is fantastic. It's Orlo very much is a solution that comes pretty much out of the box to be able to take those social presences and messages and posts from Orlo to Dynamics 365. Most of you will know, and as per the sort of housing accelerator slide that I showed, we use and work with a number of housing associations to deliver Dynamics 365 to be either a partial or complete replacement for existing housing management systems when housing associations are looking to migrate to a new technology. So this, I suppose, is just very quickly, looking at what you'd see in as a very brief example within our housing accelerator out of the box as to what's going on with Ted Nugent. Imagine one of the customer services team looking at, right here as a sort of headline information, what is going on with Ted, what do we know about Ted, what existing cases potentially does Ted have out, what are the person alerts, what are the key flags that are going on with Ted at the moment, what are there effectively, are there any sort of ASB incidents, and core information like tenancy data is all relational to Ted. So what we've created is effectively is a series of pro formas, and there's a lot more to this because the amount of services offerings and different departments that housing associations have. But I wanted to just start here to show you, within Dynamics 365 we can create a 360-degree view of Ted's world, create and drop effectively from housing operations to contact center services individuals to be able to see a 360-degree view of things like the tenancy, what's going on with the tenancy, what's gone on with Ted, what's affluent and what's front of mind. And of course, all these screens in the center here are completely configurable and are able to move things around to suit what effectively the UI needs are of your end colleagues. But in the case of actually, what we're talking about there with Orlo and some of that data coming through, what's likely is that the customer services team or comms team, whoever's interacting with Ted via social and some of the digital platforms that Orlo interacts with, it's likely that what we would create for, and what we have created for a number of our housing clients is what I describe as cockpit dashboards. So, you're coming in the morning and starting your day. How do you then actually action and have visual cues that are talking to us about how we take Ted's leak, boiler issue, complaints, whatever it might be, and make sure that we're managing those effectively, prioritizing those effectively, as well as every other customer and tenant that's within our housing association. So this is just one example of how we've created and configured dashboard capability to be able to create that sort of cockpit feel so that those individuals and your colleagues can actually go away and prioritize and look at what it is that they need to do. So again, across the left here, you've got various different information of active cases that are coming into what we call queues. So of course you can create queues which are in the you see it as very much an effective way of categorizing and putting prioritization on different types of complaints and cases that are coming through from the outside. And it doesn't just have to be from social, it can be from portal technologies as well. Cases that are being raised by particular customers, and this is just as an example, a portal that Dynamics 365 has out of the box that effectively allows customers to interact, log into a portal and directly uploads cases. So what we're talking about here is, Rich talked about live chat, he talked about social. This is an example of a portal platform which again can be reskinned, rebranded and enhanced. But all of those roads and all of that case noise comes back into this cockpit for the end user and end colleague to be able to manage in one single place. So we've got various different dashboards here which I can slice and dice. And if I want to go slice and dice that data to click on all, you see the data changes and interacts based on what I'm clicking and what I'm moving around on. And I can then go into specific cases from Ted Nugent that are directly here, and straight away I'm presented with the information that's important to me. So we have a business process flow which has been actioned, gives the end user a breadcrumb trail of what it is that effectively needs to be done next. We have an idea of what's going on with Ted outside of this particular case and what are the associated cases that Ted's been raised. We've also got the ability within here, a case is effectively the primary name for something that's either, an issue, a complaint, a compliment. We can manage different types and effectively call it a case. But obviously you have things like ASB incidents, inspections, and all of those good things where effectively what we've created with our accelerators is a way to actually understand and go through those different types of cases as part of the solution. So effectively what we're able to do here is, understand and go through the different information at different levels about TED, and very much use this information and this guided user process flow to actually complete the process, resolve that case, and in our case create either a booking for someone to go out and go and see and create a job, or potentially route it to the right place, whether it's in the case of an ASB case we need to involve authorities, or in addition to that we need to take out either our neighbourhood teams or our housing officers to go out and go and see TED directly, or colleagues and peers. So I think this is the important thing here, is that all of this again is, if you want it to be SLA driven, you'll see here this is again some demo data that we've used, but everything within Dynamics 365 is timed. So effectively we've got this here as active for 36 days. But what's most important is when we talk about solutions of customer engagement, it's just as important that they're engaging for your colleagues. What you need to create is a sense of priority, and the end user needs to feel that they understand that they've got a handle on what it is that they're working through as a to-do list, but more importantly, salient triggers and actions that need to be taken that are timely are done so. So if something is taken too long, or you expect something at research stage to be done within 24 hours, then what happens is we go back effectively to dashboard scenarios where those triggers can be popped up here, and as well as using dashboards, having assistant notifications and suggestions as to things that need to be proactively done. And of course, within that case methodology and taking those issues, there's all sorts of escalation and approval workflows that you can set to ensure that different people can pick up at different times. So, we've got tier 2 dashboard examples, but also, of course, we can create different types which are tier 1, and we can create different basically persona based dashboards that represent what it is that essentially, whether it's a senior customer services manager, a housing officer, or various different senior individuals in the organization need to see. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what we need to do and how we go about processing, looking at information, key information about the actual tenant themselves, looking at key information outside, obviously just the case data is about their tenancy, but more importantly how we can use things like business process flow and workflow to actually resolve a case, and how it doesn't really matter whether you've got channels of choice, whether it's portal solutions like Dynamics portals, or whether it's social presence. The idea is that again you create a holistic experience where this is a different customer, actually it's John Collins, but all of these are available and you're engaging, and it's all, most importantly, coming back into the same place, so that there's that holistic breadcrumb trail and that interaction point between you as a housing association and the customer and tenant. So with that, I suppose I just wanted to draw to a close essentially what is the demonstration session, and open up the floor for questions and talk to you about a little bit what we do next from here. So of course, hopefully you can see my screen now if we've switched over to the PowerPoint, but very much, this is, I think there's definitely things to be said outside of this demonstration, which is about understanding your demographics, understanding what the needs are of those customers and how it is that they want to engage with you and how they engage outside. But in addition to that, having and giving the flexibility and customers the channel of choice means that you are being more engaging. And actually, when you do so, you need to make sure that the colleagues on the ground have the ability to be able to manage those things. And as Kira said earlier, it really doesn't have to be an all or nothing strategy. The ability here, and with the technology tools that we've got, gives you the capability to take that intake, whether it's portal, whether it's social, whether it's live chat. We can take those different channels, work with those, and use workflow and guided business process flow to help them resolve issues and cases more effectively. So I suppose it'd be great just to talk to you a little bit about some of the next steps and what typically Orlo do, and to help you sort of understand a little bit more about how you could dip your toe with a solution like Orlo. And more importantly, I think I've spoke to some of you who are on the call. We obviously offer a number of different workshops around single view of the customer, how to also workshops around dropping in the housing accelerator and getting you to be interactive with some of the stuff that we've done with Dynamics 365 in the housing space. And of course we can do a more in-depth demonstration of how Dynamics 365 is helping housing associations with our housing accelerator. But Laura, I don't know whether you just wanted to come in at this point and talk a little bit about some of the things that those that don't know Orlo as well can get involved in off the back of this session.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. So what we'll be offering as a next step to everybody today is, I suppose it's that first step of understanding actually what are your current activities and where do you compare and where are you on that social journey that Rich went through earlier versus some of the other housing associations that are similar size to you or you benchmark yourself against. So we are offering free social reports to everybody today. I'll happily take some time as well to go through the social report with you as well. Have a look as well where we're doing really well, but also where could you be doing something a little bit more with your strategy. I can share some really good tips and knowledge that I've seen from other housing associations that like Bromford, A2 Dominion. So if anybody does want to take us up on that offer, if you just put into the chat social, I'll follow up after and I'll run a report. It takes about 2 weeks for the data to pull on the report. So we'll get you booked in for in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, Laura. So I said we'd be finishing on time. So we've got a couple of questions that I know have been asked that I want to sort of put to the Orlo team, and just finish on a thank you for everybody again for joining this morning. There will be a short survey that goes out just to get your feedback and understanding as to as to essentially how the session's gone and whether there's anything that you want to follow up on or ask. If you could, you see on the slide here, there's a Crimson Housing LinkedIn showcase page that we run these events every 6 to 8 weeks. So if you're interested in sort of finding out more information, and we very different topics every time, whether it's partners who come and support us or whether it's business speakers who will come and have a conversation with us about trends and relevant situations that are going. If you could drop us a follow on that, all the information about future events will be posted there, so I'd be much grateful for you for doing that. One of the questions that I had, I think, which front of mind for the Orlo team, which has come off. Thanks for sharing the public sector approach, Laura, in the chat. Sort of something that we've looked at and is a great piece and a great article for those understanding and wanting to look at digital engagement in 2021 and how that could affect or impact. One of the quick questions is that I get asked a lot when we talk about different digital platforms. I think a lot of housing associations want that two-way communication barrier and look at investing portal solutions to do so. But have you got, I suppose either Rich or Laura, have you got sort of, based on some of the experience with other housing associations, any particular channels that you find that are affluent or things to start? If we're talking about a 30-day plan or a 60-day plan or a 90-day plan, are there particular channel? Would you focus on a particular social channel first, or would you go wide and look at a number of them and do them incrementally?
I'll oh, Laura, if you want to.
No, it's okay.
So Orlo allows you the ability to kind of curate across the different channels, so allow you to create posts and simplify that down. However, I would say Twitter's usually the one for me, is the fact that it's the place where people go to complain. So when you look at social media and a landscape, Facebook is me kind of just rambling. Instagram is Laura posting out what she's doing on holiday, and Twitter is where I'm going to tell a company that I'm not happy. So we've got to be able to kind of mitigate between those different channels and go, actually, what am I posting out and why I'm posting out, isn't it? So I would always look to Twitter first, because that's where you're going to start getting the most engagement quickly how people are actually seeing your brand. Laura, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, to be fair, to reiterate what you've just said there, so for me, the main two channels would be Facebook and Twitter, and they are both slightly different in how and how your community is going to engage with you. But I would always say have a look at the analytics behind everything that you're doing as you're doing it, and that's going to help steer you to understand actually your activities. How does that engage best with your community? And actually that community engagement piece can be really strong on Facebook as well, and things like Facebook groups, and just being part of the community to grow that engagement piece. And for taking that engagement back, like Rich just said, you do tend to see a little bit of a difference. So just a everyday question inquiry, you see that coming through a lot on Messenger, but if somebody feels like they've not got the service that they feel like they should have had, you haven't gone back to them quick enough, tends to be Twitter where they go to escalate it, because I think people feel like they've got a bigger voice on Twitter. So I'd say having a good management of both of the channels.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the analytics piece. Actually, is if you're talking a 90-day plan, it's test, test, and retest. You'll start putting stuff out there. You'll start seeing engagement back, and that analytical piece will give you the idea of, okay, I'm seeing more on this channel. Why is that? Is it because we're engaging more on it, or is it because actually that's where our community is? And it will guide you.
Thanks, guys. And if anyone has got any more questions, put your hand up. There was just one which I got asked actually prior to the session, and it's come up before. So we obviously have helped on the dynamic side, have helped put in live chat, Microsoft's virtual agent solution, which is a fantastic solution for managing live chat bots, as well as the Dynamics 365 portals. I think one of the two barriers when looking at, because what we're talking about here is very much an omni-channel strategy to be able to look across social, look across portal, live chat. I think the barriers and fears from a number of housing associations that I've spoke to prior is this idea that A, are we opening up a can of worms, and B, how do we transform our people to, and do we then go and have to go and hire a load of new people per channel to be able to then manage these effectively? Or how do we then effectively use the existing people across the business, who are those customer touch points, who are the ones picking up the phone calls, to work in this way? So I don't know, Rich, if you've got any thoughts, or Laura, if you've got any thoughts on that.
I think for opening yourself up on the social channels, it's going to happen anyway. If somebody wants to speak about you on Facebook, they're going to speak about you on Facebook. So I don't think having a presence on the channel will really make a difference with that. Where it does make a big difference is that you are able to engage back with it. You'll be able to stop something escalating and prevent it. And also use it to an advantage as well, to just be able to better serve from there moving forward.
Yeah, I'll take on the reach. It's a really interesting one. So, what we see a lot of people start up as a digital desk. Have we got people within the organisation who are a bit more attuned to social, and get them involved first and get them to be your champions? What I will say is stuff like Orlo and our integrations into Flock omni-channel is supposed to make it feel more like an email inbox, and give people the stuff like the snippets, to give them opportunity to actually go, as here is the playbook, this is what we're doing, and it makes people more comfortable. And the more people get involved and do it, the easier it becomes. It's like anything. I did see a question in the chat from Stuart about the 3 a.m. posts. So I'm assuming, Stuart, that was around people actually posting to you at 3 a.m. and how do we manage that? So social is a 24/7 thing, but I don't expect anybody to work 24/7. We have something called triggers in the Orlo platform, which is about basically pushing alerts to you. So it's if something comes through with certain sentiment, if it comes through from an influencer, if it comes through from certain keywords that you put into it, you can then trigger it to send off information. So it could be an email, it could be assigning the message to somebody, it could be pushing it over to Teams. And the whole idea of that is that once you are back in the game and you're awake, then it will answer that question for you. So having stuff like set times and working hours and making sure people know that is really important, but then also having the automation behind that will allow you to kind of answer those questions as quickly as possible once you are available.
Thanks, Rich. So we said we'd finish on time, so we will do. Thanks, Orlo and team, and thank you everyone for joining this morning and spending the hour with us. As I say, if you want to get in touch directly, it's jordan.wheat@crimson.co.uk. I'll probably drop you guys a quick email off the back of everyone who's joined. Quick emails just to say thank you and follow up with you directly off the back of this session. But if you could drop us a follow on LinkedIn and get in touch with myself and the Orlo team if you'd be interested in having a social report from essentially understanding how you are doing today and what could be improved, they'd be delighted to do that. So I'll close with thank you everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you very much for everybody's time, and thank you very much, Crimson.
Thank you, and
Cheers,
thanks for
guys.
having us. Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye all.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye all.